real quick note before we start this third passage. First, this comes straight from the files of the paid course, so you're going to watch me show not just why right answers are right, but how to derive those answers. Second, you may notice that I make what might seem like real passing fast mention of some big ideas, and that's because I spend more time on those big ideas in the theory section of the paid course. All right, enjoy. Good Lord, this third passage could not have been more different from the second passage, where that second passage was all that deep psychological shit. This third passage just facts, 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 just a dump of concrete information about the way that this ancient token system developed into abstract writing. And it all comes from the woman I affectionately refer to as DSB, whose name I can't find anywhere in the passage right now, Denise Schmant-Besserat. You might see why I call her DSB. And, you know, before her, they were kind of puzzled about them. They kind of dismissed them, just assumed that they were game tokens or something like that. And she showed that they were actually precursors to abstract language. And that's the big picture. You know, everything else is just details. So there was a lot of fact-finding in answering these questions. I don't really have anything else to say about the passage. It was, you know, kind of awful in that way. I mean, it's all concrete. It's all laid out in front of us. It exists just to illuminate this idea that DSB has shown us something new about these clay tokens. But there's not really any interesting interplay here at all, you know, nothing bigger than just that one single idea. So let's answer these questions. The main point of the passage, the tokens were a precursor to abstract language. And so on that basis, you're looking at A and you're looking at D. And then, of course, your job is to distinguish between them. What is the difference between them? In A, they eventually evolved into an abstract written language. In D, they evolved into modern languages. What? DSB never took us into modern languages. She stopped at line 54. An abstract and flexible written form had arrived at the most ancient of languages. So your answer allows you to narrow it down often to just one answer choice. But if you've got two remaining, concentrate on what makes them different from each other. That illuminates why one is right. Okay, 16. I hope you didn't get bogged down in it, right? Because come on with this weak-ass shit. The whole passage is just facts about DSB. You know, it's not that deep psychological stuff that we saw in the second passage. It is all matter of fact, and it's about these tokens becoming a writing system. So answer choice A, managed by a strong centralized government. What on earth? B, not just talking about religious rituals, but we're going to compare them against something else. Come on. Answer choice C, societies. They are socialists? Where are you getting this? Answer choice E. They couldn't have developed a system without this ready supply of clay. Where did she get that? I mean, the whole thing was just about what the tokens meant. And the tokens were abstract representations. They were the precursors to a written language. So, I mean, I don't know. I said at the beginning that it would just not need so much big picture understanding as a fact-finding thing, but my goodness, I was just really taken aback. And part of it was that in this passage full of facts, like how are you going to pick one fact that DSB would agree with? And there's lots of things. I mean, we could say that she would agree that they had agriculture. They were raising livestock. We know that. You know, these are the things they gave examples of. Their crafts were diverse. They were sophisticated. We know that. The tokens represented nouns. We know that. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There's all sorts of facts. And because of that, when you've got this open-ended fetch question, use whatever it is that you know about the big picture of the passage in order to whittle away to the most plausible answers. And on that basis, I suppose answer choice E is a little more plausible, kind of in a vacuum, than I gave it credit for being here. But A, B, and C are ridiculous. Answer choice D, they came to regard the clay tokens as redundant. And we know that absolutely because, first of all, it just fits with the whole main idea, which is the tokens evolved into something else. Of course they became redundant. That's what evolution is, the casting off of redundancies. But she, of course, says it explicitly in line 46. At first, it took 2 tokens to record the jars. Later, we didn't need the tokens anymore. 17, one of those fact-finding missions that was much more directed than 16. What did we say about the writing in Uruk? And we said a couple of things. They date from roughly 3000. There's one thing. They used relatively few pictographs. There's another thing. They used numerous abstract symbols. There's a third thing. So I'd be looking for any of those 3 things. Hey, look, answer choice B. They used relatively few pictographs. Done and done. Answer the question before the answer choices. For 18, I want to focus again with this open-ended fetch. I want to focus again on answer choices, or not again. I mean, we talked about passage last time. Let's talk about answer choices this time. A, it was abandoned because. Now, it's very likely that we know that a thing happened, and yet we do not know exactly why it happened, or we do know why it happened, and that's not the reason offered in an answer choice. So when you get this because, you should be very, very wary. It was abandoned, yeah. Was it abandoned because it wasn't capable of representing quantity? No, that's absurd. Of course it was capable of representing quantity. You had 2 jars, put in 2 tokens. But before you even get into thinking about what that means, just the sheer structural fact of the purported reason is enough to make you raise your eyebrow. This is not likely. Answer choice C, it could be understood only because. Really? There's only one way that we're able to understand this? Unlikely. Don't spend time on it. Answer choice D is originally thought by most archaeologists. Really? Where did it say that? In the beginning of the passage, we know that there were some archaeologists that had a feeling, but most of them, and always be so wary of that. And that leaves us on purely structural grounds with only B or E to consider. And then, is it true that they came to designate a broad range of objects as the crafts became more diverse and sophisticated? Oh my Lord, the passage used that language. I'm in line 33. Hundreds of new token forms developed. As a rise in industry boosted the system, villagers' crafts were becoming more diversified and sophisticated. Passage says it, and it didn't have to use the same words. I really would have expected synonyms, but that's beside the point. You get fast, you get efficient by employing the structural reading. 19, like 17, a much more directed fetch question. Why did the author call them abstract? Well, what did she say? I'm in line 5. They had relatively few pictographs. They didn't just make drawings. They were abstract. The sign for sheep, for example, is not an image of a sheep. What does she mean by abstract? That they weren't pictures. Answer choice C, they don't resemble what they designate. There has to be the answer in the text. Derive that answer, and the rest is cake. For question 20, again, like question 18, I want to focus on these answer choices structurally. Answer choice C should call you like the siren song of the sea. You should want to choose it so badly, and you can't just choose it for structural grounds, but you should want to. And then you go to the passage, and in line 20, the earliest of the tokens were simple in form. There were cones and spheres and pyramids, and then later in line 35, as industry boosts the token system, you start to see figurative forms such as bowls or jars with handles. Yes, some later tokens were less abstract. Question 21, going back to the same well from which we drew question 19. What would you say about the symbol for sheep? It is abstract. That's what you'd say about it. It's non-representative. So there's your answer. It's abstract, it's non-representative, or A, it could have been replaced by any other sign that wasn't already in use. Doesn't matter what I mean, what, we used a circled cross for a sheep? The hell does that mean, sheep? It could be anything, and we know that's right because the author characterized it as being non-figurative and abstract. You answer the question, then you find the answer choice that matches. For 22, again, our work in the logical reasoning creeps into our work in the reading comprehension. DSB has made a causal claim. She sees these inscriptions that are traceable to farm products, and she presumes that the reason is that they are making contributions to grain and livestock pools. Maybe, maybe they are. But if we want to weaken that claim, let's attack the causal assumption. Let's then provide some other possible reason that you'd be, recording these farm implements. And so on just pure structural grounds, we know what we're looking for. Something that gives another reason that you might be recording these farm and what? I'm losing the word. No, just farm products. I just thought it was a better word than products. Some other reason that you might be making record of farm products. Some other reason that isn't a contribution to a shared pool. And like A, the number of envelopes, who cares? C, the ones after 3000 BC, who cares? We're talking about these ones. D, there's no evidence that they were meant to be placed in. Who cares where they were placed? This is about why they were placed. E doesn't really offer much weakening. They're contributing. Actually, he might strengthen the argument because it says they did, in fact, offer contributions to the pools, and they also contributed their labor. In which case, yeah, I take that back. Not much weakening? No. Nay. Instead, it strengthens the argument because it tells us definitively that they did the activity that DSB thinks is the cause of these tokens. Answer choice B, unlike A, C, and D, answer choice B offers us some other activity about these people. E, of course, offering us an activity that just confirms her suspicions. B, they are doing this maybe because they're performing services for another person, not because they're contributing to a shared pool. It gives us another reason for the presence of these tokens, and that's what we expect from the right answer to this weakened question. And that then closes out this highly factual, highly boring, illuminative passage.